Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. I hope you had a wonderful, relaxing, amazing weekend. I am excited to be here and talking about managing progress and not people. So let's dive in. Progress is key. So I read this study. I read the article in Harvard Business Review by Teresa Amabile and Stephen Kramer from Harvard Business School. And this study that they did found that nothing makes employees more fulfilled, engaged, or happy than making progress. Fascinating. They also then wrote a book. I have not read the book yet, but now I'm going to, called The Progress Principle: Using Small Wins to Ignite Joy, Engagement, and Creativity at Work. But how fascinating is that? Nothing makes employees more fulfilled, engaged, or happy than making progress. So I pulled this from their study, and they call this the progress principle. And here's what it means. Of all the things that can boost emotions, motivation, and perceptions during a workday, the single most important is making progress in meaningful work. And the more frequently people experience that sense of progress, the more likely they are to be creatively productive in the long run. So whether they are trying to solve a major scientific mystery or simply produce a high-quality product or service, everyday progress, even small wins, can make all the difference in how they feel and perform. So in the study and in the article, they say that this principle in action is, you can see if someone is fulfilled at the end of the day, if they're feeling good, if they're feeling amazing, most likely they have made progress on something. If you see someone on your team who is totally depleted, they're upset, they're exhausted, not feeling great, most likely they have hit a setback, or they don't feel as if they are progressing in their career, on a project, in their life. So why is this important? Why is the progress principle important? It struck me because it gives you a place to prioritize your employee engagement efforts. This study found that when people are making progress, they are happy, they are fulfilled, and they are engaged. So this is what motivates them. Progress, making progress motivates them. So it's not about the awesome perks. It's not about the snacks in the break room, which those are all very nice to have and good extras, but it's really about progress. So you don't need to focus so much on managing the people as you need to focus on managing the progress. And really, that's the ultimate win-win for employees and the business. If you're managing the progress, if employees feel motivated, excited, and fulfilled by progressing, and that progress is progressing towards the company's mission and vision, win-win. So I want to talk about this aspect of it though. For the progress principle to be effective, the work has to be meaningful for the person doing it. So making progress on work that somebody doesn't find meaningful doesn't provide that engagement, that fulfillment, that happiness. So it has to be progressing on work that that individual finds meaningful. However, as a leader, as someone's teammate, as HR, if you're in the HR department, it is not your job to make the work meaningful for someone. So a lot of times we feel like, oh, we have to really sell this work, explain why this is so meaningful, or this person's not engaged. Let's try to jazz it up and talk about this project in really exciting terms. It is not your job. It is not your job to make their work meaningful, but there are things that you can do. The first thing you can do is you can make sure that employees know how meaningful their work is. So you can talk to them about how the work that they do contributes to the overall vision or mission. Because a lot of times people are doing really meaningful work, but they don't feel like they are because they don't realize how it connects to the vision. So help them understand that. You can also make sure that their work doesn't get stripped of its meaning. So maybe they're doing really meaningful work, but nobody is recognizing them or nobody realizes it. So make sure that their important work that they're doing, that meaningful work, doesn't get stripped of its value. And lastly, something you can do is you can help them determine what work is meaningful to them. Maybe some people are making progress all over the place, but they don't feel very good because none of the work's meaningful. So help them figure out what is meaningful work to them. I'm a great example of this. I did a ton of awesome finance and accounting work, made tons of progress, didn't totally provide me with fulfillment or happiness or engagement because that work wasn't super meaningful to me. So I had to then work with, my mentors, my coaches, all of those amazing people to figure out what work is meaningful to me that I do want to progress on. So you may be wondering, how do you implement this? How do you talk about the progress principle with your team? What can you do? So the way I thought about it was I broke it down into 3 steps. The first thing you can do is determine what work is meaningful to your team and why it's meaningful. So again, this principle only works if they're progressing on work that is meaningful to them. So step 1, figure out what work is meaningful. And the way that you can do this is by using the zone of genius exercise. And we've talked about this now and then in the roundtable. So actually, I'm going to send that out with an additional video this week to explain what this is. But this is a great exercise that you can use with your team. It's a fantastic employee engagement exercise. And it will really help for each individual, help them determine what work is meaningful for them. So then once you determine what work is meaningful for your team and why, the next step would be to develop clear, meaningful goals. So this is really where that apex comes in from last week that we talked about with employee engagement. So once you know what work is meaningful to your team, then figure out what meaningful goals you can set. What do they want to progress towards? Where are they headed personally and professionally? What is that intersection of personal fulfillment and maximum company contribution? And then develop clear, meaningful goals to get there. And then step 3, determine how to measure meaningful progress. So your team might be progressing, but they need to know they're progressing. They need to know progress is being made. They need to see it and they need to feel it. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. They're not going to feel engaged, fulfilled, and happy. So determine how to measure meaningful progress. And some ideas I have for how you can engage your team in that process, because again, it's not on you to be like, this is how we're going to measure it, and this is how you're going to feel like you're progressing. Engage your team. Ask them, what will forward progress look like for you? How will you know that you're winning? What does ultimate success look like? What does it feel like? What does it taste like? You can get real curious and creative with your coaching questions. So that's a fantastic way. Those are good questions to start a discussion to figure out how to measure meaningful progress for your team. So some other helpful tips I want to throw at you. Something we talk about a lot internally at the Perk is celebrating the steps and not just the results. And this really ties in with the progress principle. So you can set a big lofty goal. A lot of companies have like big revenue goals or sales goals, but it's really demotivating when you only celebrate when a goal is hit. Celebrate the steps, celebrate the progress. Find a way to really get people excited that they're progressing towards the goal. So shift your focus. Shift it from pure achievement of the goal to focus on progress of the goals. And remember, the progress piece, that's what boosts employee engagement, fulfillment, and performance. So shift away from just pure achievement and focus on progress. And remember, you need to make sure your team is progressing and that they know they're progressing. So some self-reflection questions I want you to think about before our roundtable tomorrow. What am I progressing on? So not me personally, what are you progressing on? How do you know that you're making progress? How do you know? And how does this progress make you feel? What are you not progressing on? And how do you know that you're not making progress? What is one setback that you're facing with it? What is something at work that you have no idea if you're progressing or not? No clue. And what is in the way of you knowing if you're progressing or not? Then I also have some team reflection questions. I'd be really interested to hear from you all tomorrow about your company's approach to progress. How do you measure progress? How do you talk about progress? How do you celebrate progress? Do you? Or do you just celebrate when the goal is achieved? And I want you to think about what's an idea that you have that's been sparked from thinking about progress, this conversation. What's an idea you have to help your team to better be able to see and feel that they are progressing? Interesting stuff. And remember, you're all super amazing. I'm excited for our discussion tomorrow. Please let me know in the meantime if you have any questions. Otherwise, I will see you at noon.